Okay, we're here with Bonnie Johnson, who's just finished speaking a little while ago at the Twin City Tea Party. Bonnie, tell us a little bit about what you were speaking on.
We were talking about the elections and how to have clean elections, and that I think most of us want to make sure that each citizen of the United States gets the opportunity to vote once in their place of residence for any of the candidates or issues that they choose to vote for.
Now, you mentioned one of the things necessary, and actually some of the rules in Massachusetts actually state that a Republican city committee, so forth, submits names to a clerk, for example,
Correct.
And it's from those names that the clerks pick. So shouldn't there already be these clean elections? Why aren't all these Republicans being picked to serve in these areas?
Well, right now, the Republican and the Democratic state committees or town committees are supposed to submit names to the city clerks and town clerks in the end of May. It is not happening with the Republican side. Most of the Republican city and town committees don't know that's part of their job to do. So in Worcester, for instance, the second largest city in New England, we have 50 precincts. And in most of those precincts, there maybe is, out of the 6 poll workers, maybe there's 1 Republican, but the majority of them are not. And that's just because names haven't been submitted, people haven't stepped forward to do the job.
So it's all a question of just getting involved. Once you're involved, you're in a position to do this.
Absolutely.
Now, you said something about a training session to teach you what to look out for and how to watch at a poll, how to spot something that's actually against the rules.
Mm-hmm.
Could you tell us a little bit about when this is?
I'm doing a training session on Monday night at Nouveau, N-U-O-V-O restaurant, which is at 92 Shrewsbury Street in Worcester. It's about an hour. Start at 6. We'll be out of there, or we'll be done at 7:15. You can order food, you can order drinks. Great place. We'll be upstairs. It'll be quiet, and we'll be able to really discuss the issues of poll watching, poll working.
Now, you mentioned something that I wasn't aware of. Every year I've gotten those really annoying city censuses, and I've been thinking, boy, what a waste. I've been voting every year. Why do I have to fill this out? But from what you told me, even though there's not a show ID to vote law statewide, you do have to show ID to vote in a particular instance. Can you elaborate on that?
This was the best thing I realized, is that in Worcester, I sat at the polls and watched people going back 3 and 4 addresses to find out where they were voting, and I said, why is this happening? Went to the election commission and said, why is this happening? And they said, we haven't cleaned up our voting rolls. And I was like, what does that mean? The street census that comes out, that gets delivered in January into February to every house in Massachusetts, if that is not filled out and returned to your city or town, you will be now placed, or you should be placed on an inactive voting roll. What that means is that when you go to the voting polls this March 6th, or your town or city election, or November 6th of 2012 to vote for the president, and if you are an inactive voter, guys, you're going to have to show some form of ID to vote, and you're going to have to fill out a form.
Now, how would the poll worker know that it's an active voter? Is it like an I next to it someplace?
There's a lowercase I next to their name.
Now, is the poll worker required to demand this, or does an observer have to bring it up from your experience?
The poll worker should demand this.
So if a poll worker doesn't demand it, if you're an observer, you can say this person was inactive. You're required to do this.
Correct.
And this is by state law.
Absolutely.
So in other words, for these people who are inactive, if they are not actually where they live, who they are, or where they live, they have to prove who they are, and suddenly the incentive to try and cheat becomes a little harder.
It definitely becomes a little harder. I think what we're going to find is that a lot of those in Worcester, 99,000 voters, 46% of them became inactive when they did this. 46%, guys. 46,000 voters became inactive and have to show some form of ID and fill out a form to vote. Most of those people, I would think, are transient and have moved and never received the postcard.
So a lot of it is actually legitimate, but have you seen the reactions when people have been challenged on some of these that might not have been so legitimate?
I have seen a lot of people walk into the polls and get really angry that they're an inactive voter and how come they're inactive, because a lot of people are confusing the federal census with the city and state yearly census. So So they did the federal census, but didn't do the city census, so they're still inactive.
All right. Now, if people want to find out more about what you do and such, is there a website?
There is a Facebook page. Your best bet is to call me. You can email me, you can call me. My phone number is 508-335-5273. Leave a message and I'll call you back. My email is fiscalhope101@gmail.com. fiscalhope101@gmail.com.
And the last thing, Bonnie, what do you say to a person who says, I just don't have time to get involved? What's your answer to a person who says something like that?
We're losing our country, people. We have got to wake up and get involved. We have got to get involved if we care about this country.
Or you end up with the government you deserve.
I think if we look overseas and look at Greece, we're not far behind. I hate to say we're close to where the Soviet Union was, but it's all happening, guys. Look what Stalin did. The same things are happening in this country. It's a slow process. It won't happen overnight, but we better wake up.
All right, Bonnie Johnson, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.